The first crack was barely audible. Just a whisper of concrete surrendering to forces it was never meant to withstand. But in a gymnasium packed with 3,000 screaming fans, nobody heard it. Nobody except him. Marcus Chen, the point guard, standing at half-court during a timeout with 47 seconds left in the championship game. His team down by 2 points. The crowd roaring so loud the floor beneath his feet vibrated with their energy. And then he felt it. That slight shift. That wrongness that made his stomach drop before his brain could process why. He looked up at the ceiling. The massive steel beams that had held this structure together for 63 years. And he saw the impossible. A thin line of white dust falling like snow from where metal met concrete. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because to understand what happened in those final 47 seconds, you need to know what led this team to this cursed gymnasium in the first place. You need to understand why they couldn't just run. Why they made a choice that would either make them legends or cost them everything. This is the story of the Riverside Warriors. And what they did when the world was literally falling apart around them will change the way you think about courage forever. 3 months earlier, the Warriors weren't champions. They were a joke. A team that hadn't won a playoff game in 7 years. Playing in a league where most teams had sponsors, training facilities, sports psychologists. The Warriors had Marcus Chen, a 34-year-old former college player who'd blown out his knee and now worked at a hardware store. They had Jamie Rodriguez, who drove a forklift at the docks and couldn't afford proper basketball shoes. They had Old Man Peterson, their coach, who volunteered his time because the community center couldn't pay him. Nobody expected them to even make the playoffs. But something happened that season that nobody could explain. They started winning. Not because they were more talented. Not because they had better plays. They won because they refused to quit. Down 15 points with 3 minutes left, they came back. Facing a team with twice their budget didn't matter. And slowly, game by game, they clawed their way through the bracket until they found themselves in the championship. Against the Metro Lions. A team with professional trainers, custom jerseys, players who'd been recruited from Division I programs. The championship was scheduled at Hartley Gymnasium. And if you knew anything about the city's basketball history, that name sent chills down your spine. Hartley wasn't just old. It was condemned. The city had been trying to tear it down for 5 years, but bureaucratic red tape and legal battles with the Historical Society kept it standing. Barely. The building had been deemed structurally unsound after an engineering report found that decades of water damage had weakened the support columns. Cracks ran through the foundation like spider webs. The roof leaked in 17 places. During heavy rain, you could actually see the walls bowing inward. But here's the thing. The league didn't have another venue available. The main arena was hosting a concert. The university gym was under renovation. And the championship game sold 3,000 tickets before anyone realized where it would be held. 3,000 tickets at $40 each. That's $120,000 in revenue that the struggling community league desperately needed to survive. So they made a choice. They inspected the building. They hired an engineer who gave them a very carefully worded report that said the structure was adequate for the scheduled event provided weight distribution guidelines were followed and weather conditions remained stable. Nobody read the fine print. Nobody saw the part where the engineer recommended limiting capacity to 1,500 occupants and avoiding any activities that could create harmonic resonance in the support structure. 3,000 people crammed into that gymnasium on a Friday night in April. The Warriors and the Lions took the court. And for 46 minutes and 13 seconds, it was the most incredible game anyone had ever seen. The score went back and forth like a pendulum. Neither team could pull ahead by more than 5 points. Marcus Chen was playing the game of his life, hitting shots he had no business making. Jamie Rodriguez was everywhere on defense, diving for loose balls like his life depended on every possession. The crowd was insane. Every basket brought an eruption that shook the bleachers. People stomping their feet in rhythm, jumping up and down when their team scored. The building wasn't just loud. It was alive, breathing and swaying with the energy of 3,000 souls united in the moment. And then, with 47 seconds left, the Warriors called timeout. Down by 2 points. One last chance to draw up a play that could win them everything they'd fought for. That's when Marcus heard the crack. He looked at his teammates huddling around Coach Peterson. None of them had noticed. He looked at the referee checking the game clock. Nothing. He glanced toward the bleachers where his wife and daughter were sitting, Section 12, Row 8. They were smiling, cheering, completely unaware. Another crack. Louder this time. And then he saw it. The massive steel beam running the length of the ceiling, right above center court. A bolt had sheared off. He could see it dangling by a thread of metal, swinging slightly with each vibration of the crowd. And where that bolt had been, a crack was spreading through the concrete anchor point like lightning across a dark sky. Marcus's mind went into overdrive. Engineer mode. His dad had been a contractor before he passed. Marcus had spent summers working construction, learning about load-bearing walls and structural integrity. He knew exactly what he was looking at. That beam held up 60% of the roof structure. If it failed, the entire ceiling would collapse like a house of cards. Tons of steel and concrete would come crashing down onto the court, onto the bleachers, onto 3,000 people who had no idea they were sitting under a death trap. He had maybe 2 minutes, maybe less. The beam was already compromised. Every cheer, every stomp, every vibration was making it worse. He could evacuate the building, pull the fire alarm, get everyone out safely. But he could also see what would happen if he did that. Panic. 3,000 people rushing for 4 exits. A stampede. People would get trampled. Kids would get crushed in the chaos. And that beam, the sudden movement of all that weight, all at once, could be the final stressor that brought it all down anyway. The timeout was ending. The referee was blowing his whistle, calling the teams back to the court. Coach Peterson was drawing up the final play on his clipboard. The Metro Lions were stretching, getting ready for the most important defensive possession of their season. Marcus made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life, no matter how it turned out. He said nothing. He walked back onto the court, took his position at the top of the key, and prepared to run the play that would either win them the championship or be the last thing any of them ever did. But here's what Marcus knew that nobody else did. He knew exactly how to keep that building from collapsing. At least for 47 more seconds. The key was resonance. The crowd's energy was the problem. Every time they jumped and landed in unison, it sent harmonic waves through the structure. Like soldiers marching in step across a bridge. That's what was destroying the beam. The rhythmic, synchronized force of 3,000 people moving as one. So Marcus needed to control the crowd. He needed to keep them seated. Keep them quiet. For 47 seconds, he needed to turn the loudest gymnasium in the state into a library. But how do you silence 3,000 people in the middle of a championship game without telling them they're all about to die? You make them hold their breath. The referee handed Marcus the ball for the inbound pass. The Warriors were set up in their standard formation. Jamie cutting across the baseline. Big Mike setting a screen at the elbow. Rodriguez flashing to the corner for a three-point attempt. Standard play. Expected play. The Lions had seen it a dozen times and knew how to defend it. Marcus looked at Coach Peterson. Made eye contact. And then he did something insane. He held the ball. Just stood there at half court, dribbling slowly, burning clock. The crowd didn't know what to do. The Warriors were down 2 with 47 seconds left, and their point guard was just standing there like he had all the time in the world. The Lions' defense looked confused. Should they pressure him? Should they wait? Their coach was screaming something from the sideline, but Marcus couldn't hear it over the sound of his own heartbeat. 20 seconds on the shot clock. The crowd was getting restless. Someone yelled, "Shoot it!" But most people were just watching, confused, holding their breath to see what would happen. That's what Marcus needed. Stillness. Silence. 3,000 people sitting on the edge of their seats, frozen in anticipation, not moving, not jumping, not creating those deadly harmonic waves. He glanced up at the beam. The crack hadn't grown. Not yet. 15 seconds on the shot clock. The Lions defender finally came out to pressure him. Marcus crossed over, behind the back, created just enough space to think. His teammates were calling for the ball, waving their arms, wondering what the hell he was doing. 10 seconds. The crowd was dead silent now. You could hear the squeak of sneakers on hardwood. The sound of heavy breathing. Nothing else. 3,000 people united in perfect, terrified anticipation of what would happen next. Marcus drove hard to his right. The Lions' defense collapsed on him. He kicked the ball out to Jamie in the corner. Jamie caught it, squared up, released the three-pointer with perfect form. And the building exploded. Not literally. Not yet. But the crowd erupted with such force that Marcus felt the floor shift beneath his feet. He looked up. The beam was moving. The crack was spreading. Dust was raining down from the ceiling like a sandstorm. Jamie's shot was perfect. Nothing but net. The Warriors were up by 1 with 31 seconds left. The crowd was losing their minds, jumping, screaming, stomping their feet in celebration. Marcus wanted to scream at them to stop, to sit down, to shut up and stay still. But he couldn't. Not without causing the very panic that would kill them all. The Lions called timeout. 27 seconds left. 1 timeout remaining for each team. And Marcus knew, with absolute certainty, that this building would not survive another eruption like that. The next time the crowd went crazy, the ceiling was coming down. He pulled Coach Peterson aside during the timeout, grabbed him by the shoulders and whispered urgently, "The ceiling is collapsing. The beam above center court. We have maybe 30 seconds before this whole place comes down." Coach Peterson's face went white. He looked up, saw the crack, saw the dangling bolt, understood immediately. "We need to evacuate," he said. "We can't," Marcus replied. "Panic will make it worse. The movement, the stampede, it'll bring it down faster. Our only chance is to control this. Keep everyone calm until we finish this game and clear the building slowly." "How?" "We let them score." Coach Peterson stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "We're up by 1. 27 seconds left. We win if we just run out the clock." "And the crowd will go insane," Marcus said. "They'll storm the court, jump around celebrating, bring the whole ceiling down on top of us. But if we lose, if the Lions win the championship, their fans will celebrate. Our fans will be devastated." "Quiet. Still, we can evacuate everyone in under 5 minutes if they're not panicking." Coach Peterson looked at the Warriors bench. At these kids who'd fought so hard to get here. Who'd overcome impossible odds to reach this moment. And now Marcus was asking him to throw the game. To surrender their dreams. To lose on purpose. "There has to be another way," Coach said. "There isn't," Marcus replied. "I checked every scenario. This is the only one where everyone lives." The timeout ended. The teams returned to the court. The Lions had the ball, down 1, 27 seconds to work with. Coach Peterson called the Warriors into a huddle one last time, looked each of them in the eyes, and made a choice that would define him forever. "Listen to me," he said quietly. "That beam above us is failing. Marcus saw it. I confirmed it. This building is about to collapse. We have one chance to get everyone out alive, but it requires us to do something that goes against everything you've ever been taught." Jamie Rodriguez looked up at the ceiling, saw what Marcus had seen. His face went pale. "Oh my God. We're going to let them score," Coach Peterson continued. "We're going to play defense, but we're going to make sure they win. Because if we win, if our fans rush the court celebrating, it's over. 3,000 people die. But if we lose, if we can keep them calm and disappointed, we can evacuate everyone before it comes down." Big Mike was shaking his head. "Coach, we can't. We worked too hard for this. There has to be another way." "There isn't," Marcus said. "I've been doing the math in my head for the last 2 minutes. That crack is growing at a steady rate. Based on the crowd's energy level, we have maybe 3 to 5 minutes before catastrophic failure. If we win and they celebrate, it happens in under 60 seconds. If we lose and keep them calm, we can get them out." The referee was blowing his whistle, calling them to get ready for the inbound. Coach Peterson looked at his team. These Warriors who'd given everything. "This is the hardest thing I'll ever ask you to do," he said. "But it's also the most important. We're not just playing for a championship anymore. We're playing for every person in this building, every kid, every parent, every soul who came here to watch us play. So I need you to lose. I need you to be heroes in a way that nobody will ever understand or appreciate. Can you do that? The silence was crushing. And then, one by one, each player nodded. They took their positions. The Lions inbound the ball. Their star player, Thompson, caught it at the top of the key. 23 seconds left. He started his drive. Jamie Rodriguez was defending him. Normally, Jamie would have been all over him, pressuring, making him work for every inch. But now, he gave him just enough space. Stayed close enough that it looked like defense. Let Thompson blow by him with 10 seconds left. Thompson went up for the layup. Big Mike was at the rim, positioned perfectly to block it. He'd rejected shots like this 100 times. But this time, he jumped half a second too late. Just enough. The ball rolled off the glass and through the net. Lions up by 1. 8 seconds left. The Lions crowd erupted. But it was different than before. It was celebration mixed with desperation. Their team was so close. The Warriors had one more possession. One more chance. Marcus caught the inbound pass. Drove up court. The clock was ticking down. 5 seconds. 4. The crowd was on their feet, but they were tense, anxious, not jumping. Barely breathing. 3 seconds. Marcus crossed half court. 2 seconds. He pulled up from 30 feet out, took a shot that had no chance of going in. Purposely threw it off the back of the rim. The buzzer sounded. The game was over. The Lions had won the championship. And that's when Marcus saw it happen in slow motion. The Lions fans were starting to celebrate, starting to jump. He had maybe 10 seconds before the building came down. He ran to the scorer's table, grabbed the microphone from the announcer, and did the only thing he could think of. "Everyone stop!" he screamed into the mic. His voice boomed through the PA system, cutting through the celebration. "Do not move. The building is collapsing. The ceiling beam is failing. I need everyone to stay calm, stay quiet, and begin walking slowly toward the exits. Do not run. Do not push. Walk calmly and we all get out alive." For one terrible moment, nobody moved. 3,000 people processing what they just heard. And then Marcus saw it. The panic starting. People looking up at the ceiling. Starting to push toward the exits. "Stop!" he yelled again. "Listen to me. I'm a structural engineer. I know exactly what's happening. That beam will hold for approximately 4 more minutes if we don't create vibrations. But if you panic, if you run, if you create a stampede, it comes down in 30 seconds and hundreds of people die. So I need you to trust me. Stand up slowly. Walk to your nearest exit at a normal pace. Count to 3 between each step if you have to. We have time. But only if you stay calm." Coach Peterson grabbed another microphone. "He's right. I've seen it too. We have time. Stay calm. Help the person next to you. We're all getting out together." The Lions coach understood immediately. He got on the PA system too. "Everyone listen to these men. Form orderly lines. Help anyone who needs assistance. We're all going to be fine." And then something beautiful happened. Something that restored Marcus's faith in humanity. People started helping each other. Big guys helping elderly women down from the bleachers. Parents carrying other people's children. Teenagers guiding people toward exits and making sure nobody was left behind. The Warriors and the Lions, moments ago fierce rivals, worked together to organize the evacuation. They positioned themselves at choke points, managing the flow of people, keeping everyone moving at a safe pace. 3 minutes passed. 2,000 people were out safely. The building was groaning now. The crack had spread across half the ceiling. Marcus could see the beam bending under the weight it was no longer able to support. 4 minutes. 500 people left. The emergency services had arrived outside, setting up a perimeter, ready for the worst. 5 minutes. 100 people. Marcus was helping an elderly man in a wheelchair, carrying him down the bleacher stairs. Jamie was doing a final sweep of the bathrooms. Coach Peterson was checking under the bleachers to make sure no kids were hiding. 6 minutes. 20 people. The beam was at its breaking point. Any second now. Everyone out. Marcus screamed. Now. The last civilians ran for the exits. Just the Warriors, the Lions, and the coaching staff remained. 60 seconds to get out. They sprinted for the doors. Marcus was the last one out, turning back to take one final look at the building that had almost become their tomb. He stepped into the parking lot. Took 5 steps. And then the entire ceiling came crashing down with a sound like the end of the world. Thousands of tons of steel and concrete collapsing inward, destroying everything, burying the court under 20 feet of rubble. If they'd been celebrating. If the Warriors had won and the crowd had rushed the court. If Marcus hadn't noticed that crack. If Coach Peterson hadn't trusted him. If those players hadn't sacrificed their championship to save those lives. 3,000 people would have died. Instead, everyone walked away. Some minor injuries from the rushed evacuation. But nobody died. Not one single person. The Warriors didn't get their championship that night. The game went into the record books as a Lions victory. The trophy ceremony happened in a parking lot, with TV cameras capturing the confusion and chaos of the aftermath. But Marcus knew what really happened. The Warriors had won something far more important than a championship. They'd proven that true courage isn't about making the winning shot. It's about making the impossible choice when everything is on the line. 3 days later,